Hey everyone, I'm going to have a conversation with Carl. He is what I would consider the best of the best in SEO. Carl, welcome. And do you want to give everyone like a 60 seconds overview of who you are and what you do?
Thanks, Danny, and thanks for the opportunity. So I am founder of audits.com. It's predominantly a SEO consultancy. And previous to that, I was a co-owner of an agency which was acquired back in 2021. I've been consulting for about 20 years. I mainly deal with large-scale sites that have suffered from algorithmic issues over a period of time. The type of clients that I deal with are generally business owners. I work for a lot of VC, PE networks and kind of what most people would class as enterprise clients. Over the years, I've worked with brands such as BlackRock, Eventbrite, O2, Groupon, M&S, British Airways. So I've worked across quite a lot of verticals and a lot of the most competitive search verticals. I'm currently working with one of Australia's largest marketplaces, which is an automotive auction site. I'm working with a couple of financial clients in the UK. One of them is one of the leading comparison sites, and also one of the largest real estate platforms in the US. And also I've taken on a couple of Shopify Plus clients as well over the last few weeks. Pretty busy. Yeah, that's it.
And you're one of those people that loves being busy, so I'm sure there's a couple of spaces up and coming for some more work too.
No problem.
Should we dive into the tricky questions?
Sure, yeah, all good.
Perfect. So what I think a lot of people don't understand is where we're really at with SEO. Where do you sort of land on this?
Okay, search over the last few years, and I guess SEO can mean different things to different people. And traditionally, SEO was Google traffic or Bing traffic, but pretty much just Google. So SEO meant Google traffic. SEO now has kind of expanded or diversified into search. So if we include search as all things, wherever a search happens across the web, excluding, say, paid media or PPC, what's happened is search has become diversified across different platforms, different surfaces, different devices. It's not the case that everyone would immediately, if they were researching a product or a business, they wouldn't necessarily do their search immediately in Google. I suspect at some point in the journey, Google will be used. But for example, if you're searching for a cafe, you might go and use Instagram, or a restaurant, you might use Instagram. If you're searching for trainers, you would likely go to Google unless you were a ChatGPT user. But even within Google now, you would do a search, but you might not necessarily realize that you've been moved into another tab or surface of Google. So you have Google Shopping. So we've gone from, 8, 10 blue links, lots of ads, lots of other UI within the Google search results. But we've kind of moved from that in that search has become fragmented. And like everything else on the planet, AI has now been integrated into search. Kind of what's happened is SEO, because the AI overviews are within Google have been baked into search, most people have immediately connected SEO to AI search. Whereas within AI search, that impacts all channels, right? So if I do a search, that will impact direct, that'll impact paid search, traditional, organic. So it's not that AI search has just become about SEO. It is all channels, and a lot has been made about the impact of AI on SEO. And to kind of cut that short is, yes, AI will impact clicks, it will impact visibility, it will impact traffic, revenue, but that will happen for all channels. So I think whilst it will have an impact in SEO as a channel, I think it's important that businesses have that conversation about all channels, right? And it is an opportunity now to bring the channels together to kind of find a way to how to deal and measure with the impact of AI in search across all platforms. Yeah, the results are changing daily. I don't even think Google knows what they're doing right now. Every day someone will share something they've seen new in the search results. If we go back 20 years, SEO has always been changing. There's always been, I remember when we went from 3 paid search results to 4, I remember the introduction of also asked queries, or people also asked. We had a situation where we had our keyword understanding what keyword led to what conversion on a site. We don't have that anymore. There's always been layout changes. There's always been impacts on SEO. And I think we'll just get to a point where Google will finally have discovered how best to monetize. And that's where we'll end up. As soon as Google understands where the dollars are for both paid search and organic in AI, that's kind of where we'll end up here.
It's really interesting hearing that and remembering there's been an evolution and it changes constantly. And if you've been doing an in and around marketing or search for a long time, you always remember the big bang updates that people could probably tell you some more stories and some huge wins. And I think one thing that is ever present in SEO specifically is going to change. Google's constantly working out what is important, what's unimportant, what's going to make big dramatic changes, or what's going to drive more ads. And what Google haven't worked out, in my opinion, yet is going from an ads-based company into an AI first-based company. And we're seeing that play out all the time in search results, whether that's paid or organic. And we're going to see similar across all the different platforms that people use. So I definitely see that happening on social. We see it more and more. What used to happen on search is now happening on social as well. So I think it is evolving. But like you said, one thing that most really good SEOs are good at is understanding change, dissecting it and moving it forward.
It is. It's like where if you watch, I only started to get into YouTube a couple of years ago, and I probably watch that more than TV now. But having watched YouTube for a couple of years, there probably isn't a video that goes by where someone isn't moaning about the algorithm reducing their visibility and their views and their revenue, and how they now have to do brand sponsorship because they don't get enough in AdSense. And kind of we in SEO and paid search and kind of experienced that over the last 20 years. And that's kind of filtering down into every product of Google's. The challenge is going to be is measurement. You've got all products, like you've got TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, you'll have ChatGPT in there, Perplexity. They're all claiming, right, that they sent you that last click that converted. And we don't know is the honest answer. So I think attribution and understanding where best to invest money into what channel, that's going to become harder and harder to be very accurate on.
Yeah, there's all the 3Ms and all the different sort of frameworks and principles and mathematical equations that people are using. But I think we're going to get to this other point where we're moving from something that's highly, it used to be predictable, into something that's a little bit more experimental again, and actually understanding and being okay explaining to a CFO that it's multiple touch and it's multiple screens, and someone was definitely streaming something while shopping, while searching, and then subscribing to something else, and it probably took them way longer or way shorter than we ever used to imagine. So you're probably experiencing that a lot with a number of your clients, especially if they're a marketplace.
Yeah, the analytic, and given that's compounded by you have Google Analytics, which nobody likes using anymore, understandably. Then for most SEOs, they bury their head in Google Search Console data. As soon as you apply a filter or segment the data at all, at any level in Search Console, the data that you get back is heavily anonymized and heavily aggregated. So while Search Console can be a good indicator of, I guess, trends within your traffic and kind of good ratios of what people are finding, what they're not finding, etc., it's not, I'm having to explain that to CFOs, like, this is not the true number of how many people came into this page on this query. This is just a snapshot. But it's very difficult to get that data. And if you look at like direct traffic, every client I look at, their direct traffic's going up month and month. I'm like, direct doesn't even exist anymore, right? If you type a web address into Chrome, it will do a search. So, because most people won't complete it. And so how often do you type in the full web address into a browser? It doesn't, right? People don't do it yet. Direct, everything is just getting lumped into that channel. So it's just become very murky. We've gone from, I don't know how many years ago it was, say 10 years ago, we got promised like big data. like everyone up on stage, big data, you will know exactly at what touch point converted, and that's just all disappeared.
Yeah, I can only imagine that's going to go up. Just being in the circles I'm in and talking to the people that I talk to, the reference point now is where did the lead come from? It says ChatGPT, or that they screen got the Perplexity referrer. So I think we're going to get into this world where there's going to be so many different channels or so many different ways. And voice is going to be an interface. I know you and I used to joke around it a few years ago, but voice is definitely something that's coming back around. And if you speak to the smart people in AI, whether that's VC side or PE, they all think voice is going to be a huge platform. So I think a lot of the things that people poo-pooed before might actually come back to fruition. So it'd be interesting to see the future.
Yeah, I agree.
Should we challenge ourselves to, is SEO dead?
Short answer is no, if you're a good SEO. Yes, if you're a bad SEO. If you're trying to do traditional SEO on large brands, large corporate sites, it's very unlikely that you'll make a dent in that performance. If you're doing traditional SEO on a local site, which requires a bit of optimization because they're offering window designs in say Essex, it's probably still a chance that you could optimize using basic SEO and make a dent in their performance and drive them leads, right? It has, in terms of how you rank, hasn't really changed. That hasn't changed for a long time. There is, like, if you log into LinkedIn, you'll just see posts, something along the lines of, we did this one thing and it 10x'd our traffic, or steal my idea, or this one thing is going to change your SEO performance forever. Like, the reality is, on a large site or brand that's been around for a long time, that just isn't going to work, right? It is, on all sites, it is often a compounding effect of many small changes over a long period of time. Like, it is very, very rare to ever find one issue that is the kind of silver bullet. The only thing I could think what would happen these days, and there's so many alerts and checkers in place to kind of prevent this, but would be if you robotsed out your site or no indexed it. And even then, it would have to be no indexed or robots for such a long time for Google to remove it, because they leave it in the SERPs anyway. Optimization, if people are searching, you're always going to be able to optimize for that search, whatever platform that is on. I mean, SEO in its traditional format and the way that it is kind of envisaged by brands and companies, I think doesn't have much legs left in it. I do feel like we are close to a point where, and it will take a few years to happen, but we're getting to a point where the bad SEO will get weeded out very quickly. It's like, especially if you're an SEO that's working for legitimate brands and who don't have a high risk tolerance, who want a sustained growth over 2-5 years, then that's kind of the SEOs that you see pop up on LinkedIn, and they're often like, we're the first company to be able to manipulate AI overview results, or we've done the largest AI study on the internet and we know how to manipulate. As soon as you see the word manipulate for a start, you should be like, that's a red flag for me. And anything that has been manipulated, you think like, it's taken Google almost 20 years to get to a point where they were able to kind of borderline distinguish what was good content, bad content, what's a brand, what isn't. And obviously AI will significantly accelerate that. So if someone's manipulating, that's going to be wiped out very quickly. So yeah, it's not dead. It does need to mature again. There was a stage when pandas started rolling out many years ago. There was a period where SEO was starting to kind of mature and grow up, and it started to be taken seriously within businesses because Google was hitting sites pretty hard. But I feel like we've got to a point again where, because of AI and lots of people kind of trying to sell something or offer you something, it's gone to that kind of like scammy manipulation, quick fix, hacky era again. And I think we need to kind of come out of that and mature as a channel. So yeah, it's a weird one. And also, like, in AI overviews, if I had had a client spend as much interest in AI overviews as they've done in the last couple of months as they would have done in their SEO the last 5 years, we probably wouldn't even need this conversation, because everything that we would have done would be working in AI overviews, and the brand would be there. It would be visible for all of the kind of list type stuff, because at the moment the answers aren't particularly great. And just another weird observation with kind of AI and SEO is that with AI overviews, brands and clients are kind of like taking the perspective of, okay, this might take 2, 3, 5 years for the traffic to grow, because at the moment it's literally like 1-2%, if that, of what is coming into the site. Probably not even that for most. But they're happy to take a 2, 3, 5 year view on AI, right? On this kind of big hype. But in SEO, then they won't even take a quarter, right? It's like, if we implement something this month, what's going to happen next month? And I'm like, that's not quite how it works. So I actually see AI as another opportunity or AI search, an opportunity for SEO to grow up again, to have those proper conversations, have those awkward conversations with clients, kind of take a longer term view, use it as an opportunity to kind of shoehorn in your backlog of 2 years of recommendations, right? Get them in now. I remember when voice search kicked off and page speed and core web vitals, it was amazing the amount of interest again in SEO. So every time something kind of is deemed negative towards the industry it is an opportunity. That's the way I view it. And I'm trying to control those conversations and use them as an opportunity to make change.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. There's a couple of areas I think you really touched on that. I think if you're a CMO or a CGO or a CEO, what are really important is what a lot of businesses have had to do is have a short-term window. And what that's really done and overemphasized is results really quickly. And I think where there has been a real lack of communication, and that's led to a bit of mistrust in some disciplines, but why should we have to wait that long? And what's really frustrating, I think, from the insider's perspective, having been both sides of it, is you've probably had a ticket in for such a long time for product to be able and dev to be able to get onto it. So there is this like disconnect. And I think what most companies should do, like you said, is now's the time to try and fuse a few of the worlds together, remove some of the silos and the specialisms, and try and connect people more holistically and understand actually there is this seismic change coming with AI, whether it's in the way that we see it now or definitely going to evolve again. But how do we apply a lot of the previous learnings into all of our channels? And how do we actually take a long-term view, so short, mid and long-term view on the keywords, on where the revenue comes from, and understand actually some of these phrases that we rank for now that used to drive traffic that could show an answer, then an answer is going to be shown because it isn't commercially viable for Google or for another search engine. And then how do we start really reworking and remixing our content to play the game? One thing we know with algorithms is they're gameable, and actually Google have made many billions from SEO driving more paid keywords. So I think it's definitely, in my opinion, it's definitely not dead. I think businesses, like you said, have to sort of understand it a little bit more, and that's on us to explain it and be comfortable and confident in explaining it to a CEO, CFO and investors, and then say actually where some investment might be wiser, whether they go to paid or whether they go to social or they go to a very specific new use case that pops up. One thing that short-termism does within most businesses is confuse people. So people rush for answers and there's no confidence in it. So actually what happens is the budget's chipped away. So I think that's something that people just have to understand and have such a precise communication style that people understand it's going to take time.
Yeah. It's just also like that point about losing traffic on answer-based queries, which will happen, or it is happening. That really is another opportunity to kind of put the focus back on the money pages, on the product pages, right? Because what's happened in SEO, and this is something I have to clean up a lot of, is the blog or the editorial area has become a dumping ground or a catch-all for search traffic. It's like, oh, our product pages are rubbish, therefore they don't drive any traffic. So let's go and shoehorn in a load of blog editorial to try and capture some traffic, which then at the very best we can try and send over to our money pages. So I am kind of looking forward to almost cleaning up, a lot of work what I do anyway is it's cleaning up websites and making them more efficient and lean. And that blog or editorial, supporting editorial, has been kind of a bit of I'm glad the axe is coming down on it, because then you can focus on the product pages, on the money pages, and get the message across to your customers. Because that in SEO, that's something that's really just kind of missing a lot of, is just customer. Like, you never see anyone talk about customers. Like, it's always head down in some tool that spits out loads of data because you have to use it because you've got the budget for it. Like, it's really rare to ever really rare to go to a presentation or sit in a meeting or talk to other SEO teams and they're like genuinely know about the customer. I think, kind of controlling that customer's journey from an SEO or search perspective is going to be key, both branded and non-branded.
Yeah, the best people you tend to work with truly understand the customer journey, understand where you're connecting into it, where you're disconnected from it. And then they go, and if then they don't own it, because, ownership is part of the battle in most business, is how do you go and collaborate with it? So you either own it, co-own it, or collaborate on it. And if you don't work on those sort of levels and understand what ownership or collaboration part you have, it's going to be really difficult for someone in SEO to truly make positive impact on the customer.
Yeah.
And I do think there's a lot of specialists that have, let's call them search specialists, that have forgotten actually that it's more than traffic, it's more than rankings, it's more than traffic. It's a lot of the time it's conversions and making sure that the customer has an end-to-end journey. Again, the CMO or CGO has to take a lot of responsibility there, because we probably placed unfair emphasis on SEO when it is the sole channel that drives a lot of convertible traffic. Something I really wanted to bring up with you is you've got some really interesting theories around Amazon and how luxury is going to be impacted in, let's call it, the age of AI search. Do you want to explore them a little bit and help people understand where you think it's going to change and where these big companies are going to be impacted?
Yeah, on the luxury front. So over the years, I've worked with a lot of the luxury brands and a number of the kind of third-party resellers and the marketplaces as well that have popped up. So, and I do have a good understanding of like the internal politics on working with a high-end designer brand. All of the kind of conversations that need to be had with merchandising teams, etc., how protective they are of their brands. But high-end, I'm going to stick to maybe fashion here, but it does apply to even to travel and not so much watches, but like other high-end purchases or expensive purchases. So traditionally, luxury fashion sites have kind of always gone down the path of video or image-based content. And a lot of them for a long time didn't even have an e-commerce function. A lot of them do now. They've kind of bolted on to various platforms. And so they have like an e-commerce function, which can be recognized as a transactional function within the website. But when you visit those websites, even the products and the categories are still very much focused on, video imagery and photographs. And, they look great. I'm sure people that can afford that kind of stuff, that's what they're looking for. But from traditional search, those sites have never ranked that well. And that's why you have these marketplaces, right? Because these marketplaces, which tend to be affiliate marketplaces, know that they can outrank the official fashion sites that have an e-commerce function so that they can claim the affiliate click. Even in traditional search, it always has been fairly easy to outrank brands, high-end luxury brands. It has got harder, right? Over the years, Google has preferred to try and at least promote the official brand for branded queries, but it's not perfect. Now, if you look at moving into we'll look at ChatGPT here. So just today, I went into ChatGPT and I put, I want to buy a luxury handbag, and it returned me 5 non-luxury brands, brands I'd literally never heard of. I'm sure they're famous here because I got the Australia results, right? So ChatGPT gave me Australia results back. And then I got 6 lesser known stores. But at the bottom, it said, and then it listed out 5 examples of luxury fashion items that you might want to buy. One was a Gucci bag, there was a Birkin bag, and basically 5 other high-end products. What it didn't list was any of the stores prior to that. So in Australia, we have all those stores here. They exist on the streets, right? It's not like there's one store here. There's lots of Gucci stores, lots of Burberrys, etc. across Australia. But it was really interesting that it didn't provide any of the high-end retailers who sell their products directly. So then I went and did something similar for luxury shoes and women's shoes, and I did a few other variations. Very similar results. We had like marketplaces like Harrods pop up, but again, no direct listings for brands. Now, the cynical side of me could be like, this could be a long-term move, right? To force brands to pay to appear for these queries. But when you go back to Google search results. If I go into the Google Shopping tab, for example, and type in luxury handbags, across the top where the paid ads are, you will see the high-end luxury brands. They are bidding, they are paying to be there. But as soon as you go down to the organic listings, they're not there, right? And it's because they're not optimized. They're either not optimizing their feeds, they're not optimizing their site, they're not optimizing their knowledge graph across the web. So essentially what's happening is these really high-end luxury brands aren't being seen as a transactional place that people can go and shop. So that was just like snapshots, but it's always been the case in search. And it was just interesting. The more I've looked into it in AI search, the more evidence, is building around these really high ticket items. It's the same for travel as well. But so you've kind of got that with luxury, and they'll have to find a way to kind of integrate themselves into AI search, or find a way for them to become more referenced across the web. It's like they're known for producing, but they're not known for selling or transactional. So kind of that was just an interesting thing, and I was curious to see if what was happening in Google Organic for the last 20 years had kind of moved into AI. And then just on like Amazon, they've been really quiet, right? I know they've got this kind of the import duties and taxes and stuff like that to deal with at the moment, but you've got all of, Amazon have got their own technology business. They've got their own machine learning, their own AI. They've kind of just been really quiet on this front. And you've got like Perplexity, ChatGPT, Google, even Bing have kind of been in this kind of AI battle. Amazon as a platform, UI and UX wise, whilst on the face of it, it doesn't look like much has changed in the last 10 years. It's probably been thousands upon thousands of changes every year, but not very noticeable. They do use AI to summarize their reviews, and I believe they use AI to kind of help with some of the product descriptions. But on a whole, like, they haven't really built a product around AI yet. And I just wonder if they're sitting in the background quietly building something very impressive. And I wonder if we'll get to a stage where, well, I'm hoping we get to a stage where I can go onto Amazon and voice search, not type, voice search, be like, I'm looking for a mid-century corner desk at this height that is made in Australia and shipped from Australia. Pull up all those listings, right? Like, it can really go, and like, I'm looking for a dark oak or something like that with 2 drawers. It can be really specific. I just wonder, I feel like that's where something that Google probably wouldn't do. It wouldn't go to those lengths in their shopping, but Amazon should, because at the moment, Google is doing its best to kind of really eat into that shopping search function.
there's so many really interesting things I want to unpack. And so when you were given the ChatGPT example, I think I refer to it as like different states that people are in. So there's like educate state, which is I need to educate myself about something. I want to learn about something. And your search queries and where you search are all different. And obviously with social, you can discover it and it will feed you it if you show any intent on it. Then there's like want state. You want something, but you're nowhere near making that decision to go and purchase. But you're going to go and find all the other different available options. And I think that's where ChatGPT, Claude, and any other sort of and Perplexity are going to really have to like work hard is surface those really good alternatives or really good products to enable you to do that. And then there's like need state. You really need to take, like you really need something. You're going closer and closer to acquisition or buying a product. But then you have to work out the pricing, like whether it's going to cost you more money once you buy it. Like, is there value in the product? And I think with luxury specifically, there's, I remember working with a really well-known marketplace, and it took 12 different visits and interactions for them to buy something. And that just shows that the person who's buying on that is probably wealthy. They know all the fees, but they're doing so much more research, and then at the bottom is action state. I'm as close to possible as buying something, and I'm going to go and take that action. But I need something to nudge me over the edge. Yeah. So is that a brand? Is it a social signal? Is it a social status? What is it that nudges me across there? And I think with Google, they've been very good at understanding people take multiple steps. I think where AI is probably going to be uniquely placed is either understanding that or being able to drive people into the right areas and influence them enough to hit that buy now button. And when you said around Amazon, I think they're definitely in this spot now with AI where they know so much and they understand what's going on. But what them, Apple, Google are kind of unique place in is they're so big they get huge amounts of direct traffic, and it's default, it's utility, so people use them over and over again. So they're actually competing against time. So what a lot of companies don't realize is they rush towards something, whereas these big incumbents can be slow and slower and more methodical in doing it. And they realize if they change the experience too much, from Amazon landing page perspective, they've got so much information, all the comparison sections on it, that actually when it goes from being keywords and brand search to like really explicit search terms and to a point prompts, they have to be so maniacally focused on their best results and only serving you great results as opposed to sponsored, similar, and then the product that you want. So I think that might be, I think that's something we're going to see. But if you're a company leader or a marketing exec and you don't understand those different touch points, all you're going to do is in any sort of chat interface, an AI interface, is you're probably just going to copy and paste what you were doing, and that's not going to work. There'll be parts of it that will, but I think it's really interesting for people to understand that it's definitely evolving, and the way that the answers are being pulled are different. And there is always going to be an ad opportunity or an ad unit that's going to be added. But you really have to understand how it works, understand the prompts that people are searching for and what they're going to want to find. So I think it's going to be a really interesting future. And I think maybe that's what gives us the opportunity maybe to talk around, what do you think LLMs, like, let's call it chat search, and SEO should go together, or do you think they're two very different disciplines and shouldn't sort of meet in the middle?
Yeah, I just feel like they're going to merge as one. I think the endpoint will be us. I'll just stick to Google here, but the endpoint will be all those tabs that we have across the top of Google. I think they'll all just go. I think we'll just have one screen where a search is done. It will be an amalgamation of all different features within Google search, aligned with kind of some of those states that you just talked about, and that you're going to find it even harder to leave the ecosystem. I think it was Lily tweeted today about, Lily, she is a US SEO. She tweeted today about how Google was scraping affiliate content taking the products off of someone else's affiliate content and then funneling that back into Google Shopping. I think that was kind of what was happening. So like Google's mining someone else's content they've created. In fairness, they probably, in most cases, copied it from someone else, but not all review sites or all affiliates do that. And yeah, so it'll be harder and harder to leave the ecosystem. So we will have this kind of blended approach where Google will provide and they've tried to do this over the year in the search results, but it's been a bit clumsy. And, like, for example, people also asked, you click on one of those, it expands, and you click on another one, it expands again. It's like you can't get out of the Google ecosystem until you, hopefully for them, go through an advert. And you mentioned it a second ago. Every search will be ad driven. So even if, I suspect also every search will have a product placed in it at some point. So even if Google doesn't have a direct product, they'll find similar products or similar brands or something like that. So yeah, it will be a amalgamated approach, I think, for the better. Like, I don't like the answers in that I don't trust them. I don't trust ChatGPT. I don't trust Google Answers or the AI. And so many of them are inaccurate, even on like simple stuff. Like I did one today. I was trying to find out if a building was used in a particular TV series, the location of it. It said, yes, it is. And I was like, I'm not so sure. I'm sure it's not. And then I did the same thing again. Same question. Oh, no, it's not used. I'm like, you literally just told me it was used. And now you're telling me it's not. Like, you can't be trusted. But I do believe that we will get there. And it will, if we're taking Google's 20 years of search data, they've got the link graph, they've got all the browser behavior data, they've got web analytics data, like they've got device data. All of that will be in the one search, right? It's not there at the moment. It's clear, like AI overview answers are very different to traditional search results. I've heard rumors that the teams aren't quite aligned at Google. They are just rumors. But there are stuff that's happening in AI overviews that the traditional search team have no answer for, no indication of what's happening. So yeah, they're here to stay, not in the format they're in. They will get better. I do also believe that in the long term, there will be a better balance between them sending traffic and where they are currently. I feel like there'll be too much pressure, legal pressure across different economies to kind of force them into sending more traffic. I don't particularly believe that users love it. That is the word that's coming out of Google at the moment. They never share any data. They never prove that. They never prove any of the statements they make. But yeah, so I think, it will be blended. But again, I was on a panel a few weeks ago, an SEO panel, and it was whilst all the experts, everyone was great, the conversation was so doom and gloom. It was so negative. And this is another opportunity, right? If you're taking this back to SEO, if you're an SEO in an agency or you're an in-house SEO that wants to take that next step up, this is the best opportunity you're going to get, right? You can lead the conversation. You can take ownership of other channels, like referral data. Really, in most businesses, nobody takes ownership of referral, right? It is usually PR teams for clicks off links, or if you're running affiliate channels, it becomes important. But in most cases, SEOs wouldn't have any involvement. You can now take that referral traffic. You can also start to take some ownership of brand visibility across the web. So we now, rather than being like, I'm stuck in SEO in Google, you now have an opportunity to go way beyond that and get involved in something that's only going to get bigger and bigger, and more people are going to want to invest in it. It also takes us, if you're an agency or an in-house SEO, it gives you the opportunity to, where you're losing traffic, clicks in organic, you can say, look, we're passing in some of it or reclaiming some of those clicks in referral data. It's a really big opportunity to get so much done. It's an opportunity for career progression, to control the narrative, to take ownership, to get teams to come together again. Like, as I said at the start, this impact of AI search is predominantly being pushed into SEO, but the reality is it's all channels. Like, you can lead that conversation. You can get if you're an agency and you're with a client that's got multiple agencies, everyone in there is thinking, how are we going to get more money out of the client? How can we embed ourselves into this client longer term? AI, you could, if none of the competitor agencies or other channel agencies are talking about it, now's your chance to own it, lead it.
Couldn't agree more. The things I'm saying when I'm coaching or consulting at the moment, or being pulled in to sort of advisory roles, is there isn't a better team who should truly understand and be able to evolve into blending the worlds together. I would say this is where many smart search operators and professionals should look towards moving into like the growth world and actually truly understand and look into growth and understanding how they can influence the broader remit. And as you exactly said, this is an opportunity for you to be at the forefront of changing how things are perceived, how they're understood, and how they move forward. One thing that I'm recommending at the moment is you really need a captain or a champion who's going to advise, push, and train people and bring people together around AI, because it's constantly changing and evolving. But what the LLMs and answer engines are doing is creating a new habit. And what that means is there's going to be a slow shift. But as we know through Chasing the Chasm, early adopters are already using it. People are trying it out. They're having their moment. So now's the time to sort of understand it, test out on it. And as you said, if you're a brand and you're a good brand, people are going to search for brand and then a question or a phrase or a prompt. So for me, it's a case of what you should be doing is pushing people together, working out, and then saying to the search team, what can we apply that we've learned from 20 odd years from Google? How can we apply that into all the different LLMs to make sure that we're there? We're a trusted entity, and people are going to want to use us and actively look for us, versus leaving it to the AI algorithms to work out what's in and what's out, who's in, who's out, what's hot and what's not. And I think that's something that we definitely should be controlling a little bit more. Do you have an idea or a recommendation that you're making for marketing teams in this AI race? Do you when you talk to your customers, do they ask you questions, or is there something that you're saying, oh, hey, this is the direction of travel I think you should go in? Here's where you've got all of your data and your learnings, but here's what I would recommend to you, Mr. or Mrs. Marketing Leader.
Yeah, so unfortunately, a lot of the brands that I work with, to put it politely, their sites often have been battered by Google, in particular Google core updates over 5+ years, at least for many. So I'm often in a position where we've got so much else going on, and it goes way beyond what people would consider traditional SEO. It very much goes into product and UX. I have advised and set up for all clients, like, we're measuring the impact. We're looking at the data. Even again, coming back to LinkedIn, that place has got so noisy in that there's lots of platforms claiming to measure accurately the AI overview results, but the reality is they're all very different. Lots of different, multiple times a day. So it is hard to measure consistency, although some are trying, at least. At this stage, I'm kind of like, we need to just get foundational levels correct, because we could try and optimize now at best and spend a load of money on various activities, which I'll come on to. But the reality is your site isn't efficient. Your site is expensive to crawl. Your site is bloated. It's full of content that shouldn't be there. Your product pages don't match the intent of the user or customer behavior. Like, there's so much else going on that as the AI crawlers become more advanced, they're going to have their own algorithms where they're like, we can't crawl this site. It's too expensive for us. There is always a monetary value behind every crawl. And if you are producing lots of dead weight for the crawlers, or the crawlers end up in bot traps or stuff like that, you've got to address those problems first. You've got to be very lean, very high intent, very precise for AI overviews and AI crawlers. There are like quick wins. I hate that. Every client loves a quick win. there's obvious stuff that, again, right, this isn't new. This is stuff you should have been doing 10, 15 years ago. But one of the easiest ways at the moment is just to get into lists. So it's the best list. Like, I won't reveal who it is because it'll be easy to work out who it is. But I used to work for a big e-commerce brand that delivered something in the post during different parts of the year. And they were never in any of the best lists. They had the highest rated product by lots of verified independent experts. They had the most sustainable product you can buy, proven by multiple third party. They had the highest reviews in Trustpilot for their products, which many other people sell variations of that product. But they never, ever appeared in the lists, right? So like if someone was doing a roundup on the Mirror or doing a roundup on any of the home and garden type sites of this category, they were never there. And the reason they were never there is traditionally it was a B2B business and they never really focused on B2C, so they didn't rank. So when journalists are doing their lists, they never appeared in the page one for a while. Therefore, they never got into the list because editors, journalists were only looking at page one results. So what we did was we worked out we could have done a link building activity, which if you look at the average cost of a link at the moment is extortionate. You're looking at anywhere between, to get in the newspapers, £1,000 upwards easily for a link. And that's before you've had to pay for content, campaign work. There are ways around that. But so what we did was we just sent the item out. We collated all of the journalist editors. The cost per lead for us, or let's say cost per link, was about £20. So we sent many of these items out. I think we counted 97% or something like that of the journalists we contacted and sent the gift to features us in the list. Even if the article was old, they went and added us back in. Now, coming back to AI, those are the kind of lists that AI is scraping at the moment, and they're really crap. Like, they're affiliate lists. The lists are driven on these third-party websites. They're driven by affiliate commission, right? If you don't have an affiliate program, they can't make money from it. Therefore, you don't really ever get included. But the easiest way is to get in those lists. So just look at where, if you're searching for best trail shoes, waterproof trail shoes, and variations of that query, eventually you will identify the articles where those reference websites are being pulled from. You just need to get yourself in that list, right? You know, you can pay, you can gift, you can speak to the list owner. There's always a way, right? And everyone has their price. I'm a big believer. I've always said it, that you can get a link on absolutely any website. There is always a way, you know, and I've kind of proven that in the past. But yeah, so I think that my main tip at the moment would be to get your brand into those lists, because that's the kind of easiest way to do it. But that doesn't mean that in a few weeks' time, that might all change. Like, that's why at this stage, I think I'm very much in a kind of monitor, let it tick over, let the hype settle. Let's focus on actually fixing your site that's been battered for the last 5 to 10 years. Then we can have an opportunity to be a bit more aggressive with content plays and off-site stuff.
Yeah, there's a couple of areas where I think people should, you know, especially, you know, small and mid companies should really understand is you can only be as good as the historical view that the web, you know, the web has been. So what most companies are forgetting is if you don't have historical relevance, you don't have sort of any sort of authority, AI just don't have a record of you. It can't understand your relevancy, doesn't understand how good you are. Obviously, it can look at some of the reviews, but contextually it has to understand you. Yeah. If you're in a maturing business or a hyper growth business, one thing that you have to do is manage your PR. And I don't think that would be much different. You'll be managing it for AI and bots and their different types of scrapers and crawlers. So I think that's definitely like a really important sort of recommendation for people to understand. Your list idea is something that I think some of the media people are looking into at the moment. So I definitely think there are ways that you should definitely leverage it and find the ones that are evergreen, the ones that are really high quality, curated from someone who's written quite a lot on the web that people can understand. Do you remember when there was a lot of stuff made around authors and author markup? Like that is going to be something that will probably filter back to the top, is if something does someone have high relevance, do they have high authority? Should we give them more status, and should we service them as a public figure or an expert or thought leader within the AI answers? So I think all these things that have happened before will happen again, because they always do it circular. So I definitely think that.
Yeah, that's so, like in Google, we've gone full circle so many times, but like everything I've seen on LinkedIn, the endless post, I could literally log into LinkedIn right now, and I reckon within 3 posts, I will see someone saying, you need to become a brand to be in AI overviews. And yeah, you need to become a brand to have a business, right? Like it's so obvious. And link building, citations, getting people talking about you across the web, it has to happen. It's always had to happen. So at the moment, I've yet to see anything that isn't already should be done in search. There are some really smart people that understand AI crawling and entity extraction way beyond anything that I understand, and they are building some really great tools and doing some really smart stuff. But most brands just aren't anywhere close to being able to even try and adopt that kind of technology, or that thinking is so far beyond them. You've got brands that are still, 8-10 weeks to get a redirect put in, or to update. You've got some marketing teams that still can't edit content on the homepage. It's just, yeah, it would be nice to live in a world where we could constantly move with the shiny object, but it's far from reality.
One, having led product teams and functions, one thing I would emphasize to almost everyone, whether you're marketing, more specific SEO, or more from the business or operations function, one thing I would say to anyone is the quicker you can get trusted people to edit content or upload different media formats onto your website, the better it is. And anything that is low risk, low impact, and you can control it, give it in the hands of the people who can make it happen fastest. Because otherwise, all you're going to do is you're going to backlog, and you'll be effort versus reward or some sort of equivalent metric, and it will never happen. So having lived both sides and hearing and seeing the pain through my marketing teams and departments before, if there's one thing you can do to outpace your competitors in a quality over quantity effort, which is going to be really important, 100% try and open up as much as you can and make the most important changes as quickly as you can. And if they seem tedious and trivial, like give them access and enable them to upload it, because you're actively hurting and hindering your business, whereas you're letting them loose on social networks where they could say and type and post anything they want. So
there's
two sides to that one. Should we go through some quick fire rounds to wrap up? Do you think there's one metric that people overlook the importance of?
In SEO, yeah, definitely. It's share of search. It's something that I've been doing for 20 odd years. It was something introduced to me at my very first London-based agency. But what you're doing there is you are a marketplace that are selling Ford cars. You would take the top 10,000 queries around Ford cars and create basically like a league table of visibility queries. Only recently have the SEO platforms kind of introduced it. It was only a couple of years ago that they started to add it in, but they don't really promote it. I don't really see, from all the documents that I see and internal team presentations, I don't see it promoted and doesn't get used. And the few times I have seen it's used, it hasn't been set up. Like they put like 30 queries in it or something like that. It's just not enough. So yeah, I share quite a lot of that on LinkedIn, those kind of share of search, because I've built my own solution for that for clients, because I just didn't really like the way that the third-party tools were doing it.
Completely agree. What's the tactic that's most overlooked?
Probably not a tactic as such, but patience in SEO. Again, this is going to be all SEO related, but My biggest pet hate in SEO is people tinkering with websites. And it happens more so in agency than I would say in-house, in that as an agency, you have to send a client something every month. And if something didn't work the following month, and then you're like, oh, we just need to change it again a little bit this month, it's tinkering. And you can't tinker. If you're tinkering month to month and constantly moving stuff around and saying, oh, now we should do this or now we should do that, the reality is you don't trust your long-term plan or your long-term strategy. You don't have trust that your implementation of recommendations is going to have a long-term positive compounding effect. So if you don't trust it, how is your employer or how is your client going to trust you? Like, I see that all the time. It kind of has to stop, because if you're constantly moving the needle for Google and they can't catch up. And yeah, see, it needs to be measured long term, compounding small changes, compounding small changes. So yeah, patience would be the one.
There's a big difference between tinkering and testing. And unfortunately, people confuse the two quite often. Yeah. Do you believe SEOs or search professionals in general can help brands optimize across all the different platforms? So, one thing that there's some data around people actually using Instagram, TikTok, etc. as search engines. Do you think there's something that search professionals should be across and helping their colleagues on?
Yeah, well, that headline of TikTok going to kill Google or whatever it was, or Amazon, that headline quickly disappeared. But I do believe that anywhere where a search happens that is algorithmically driven, it can be optimized one way. It may not be the same way that you optimize for traditional Google search, but it will be able to optimize. And I, again, feel that this is another opportunity for SEOs and teams to step up and say, look, we want to go beyond Google search. We want to control your whole non-branded and branded search visibility across the web. It's like if I go on the Tesco's website, coming back to my UK roots, if I go on the Tesco's website and search for hand cream, I want to make sure that my client's brand is ranking in that search. Right now, there may be things in play like merchandising agreements and product placements and that, but still, that's just one platform. Like if you have a product that's sold globally across 100 different websites, you have an opportunity in all those places to optimize to some level, and not only just optimize on their platform, but if you want to, you can optimize the third-party platform to appear higher in search, right? You can you can do stuff to optimize and get them higher placed up in the search. So there's so many opportunities within search. Don't just bury your head in Google search.
Yeah, it's something that our mutual friend Beth Gladstone's been saying for a while, and I completely agree with how it's like search has evolved for a long time, and we're never going to get to a point where there's a revolution, although people always think there is. And I think this is why there's a lot of the smart people within the marketing world or growth world have really embraced what each different discipline can bring to the others. And although it's difficult because of OKRs and goal setting and those types of activity, the smartest and the best performing companies have the greatest cross-functional and cross-team work, efficiencies, and they understand what they've lived through, and they can help them through something. And I'm a huge advocate of bringing everyone together, regardless of how big or small the team is, and talking through your 2 wins a week and 1 challenge, because I guarantee you one of the challenges that someone might be facing in PR or social or even SEO, someone else would have seen something similar before, or even in their discipline, and say, hey, this has actually worked, or we could work on this together. And yeah, there might be a code freeze for a month, but we use all these different tactics together to come together. So yeah, on the search front and the collaboration, I completely agree. Is there a question that I should have asked you that I haven't, and why?
The one area that I could have talked about for a long time is branded versus non-branded search and how that's under-optimized. Because again, SEO gets pretty much bucketed into the non-branded search queries, whereas most brands, especially established brands, don't optimize for branded queries. and it is the easiest search traffic you'll ever drive. It's the highest converting, it's the highest intent. You shouldn't be allowing other brands to leech off your traffic. Any branded query, it should be coming to your website. It should not be going anywhere else. You can't stop the ads, obviously, but in terms of organic placement or even across the web, coming back to the last question, it could be across the whole web, like in terms of owning your branded search. If someone searches your brand in TikTok, you don't want some crazy social person spouting off about how they went into your store and something bad happened or someone said something nasty to them. And because it's not even about your brand, but it's now about your brand. So yeah, I think the branded versus non-branded is a hugely untapped source of traffic and revenue. More importantly, revenue, yeah.
I say to a lot of people, especially from like a search performance background, the time that you know you're a brand or you're making it is where people search for your brand and then a brand name, or the brand and then the brand type, or the product types. And this is what I think so many people are missing, is people will search for what they interpret you as, or they will search for you if they know you're the brand and trust you. And they want to see if you offer something they haven't found it or seen it through other advertising or organic method. I 100% agree. And if you really want to stress test it, have a look through the sell-through and you'll see that branded searches are most often the ones that convert highest and probably the ones that will reoccur if you're not a one-and-done company. So yeah, 100% agree. Thank you so much for your time. I think you've given thousands of pounds or dollars worth of advice. Where's the best place, or where would you want people to contact you on, or follow you, or engage with you on?
Cool. So you can more than welcome to email me at audits.com or LinkedIn. Pretty much spend most of my time on, any social time on there now.
We'll have it all in the show notes and in the supporting newsletters. So yeah, thanks again.
No, thank you. Cheers, Danny.